What is up, all you beautiful, free-minded, free-thinking people? I hope you're having an amazing day so far. Really quick, I just wanted to thank all of our sponsors, all the companies that make this show possible. First off, Good Habits Coffee Company. Guys, you need to check them out if you enjoy good coffee. Good Habits is all about selecting the highest quality beans. They only use grade A beans. A lot of companies, the big companies you're familiar with, don't even do that, all right? They use grade B beans. They process them in a way that maximizes freshness and still is friendly to the earth and the environment. Good Habits is all about helping you become the best version of yourself. You guys have probably heard me say it a million times if you've listened to my content over the years. You are your habits. That's why I love the name of this company, Good Habits Coffee. Discipline is far more important than motivation, and discipline is all about cultivating good habits. Good Habits is all about making good coffee for driven people. And I know that's you. That's my listeners. If you care about having a strong body and a free mind, which is what I'm all about here, you're going to like Good Habits Coffee. You can use code HURT at checkout to save some moolah. That's H-U-R-T, my last name. And if you do, let me know what you think, guys. I'm telling you, it's my favorite coffee I've ever had. I love it. Everything comes shipped whole bean because that maximizes freshness. They roast twice a week. So you're never getting something shipped that wasn't roasted within the last couple days. So check them out, Good Habits Coffee Company. Next, justworkco.com. All started with this shirt that I just held up here on the video version, the Free Mind t-shirt. Of course, the namesake of this podcast. Any apparel you purchase at justworkco.com directly supports our efforts here on the show. So check it out. We have a number of designs, a number of colors. You guys have seen me wear all of our shirts here on the show at different times. We have the Free Mind one I just showed you, the Question Everything shirt, which is very popular these days, especially when questioning is frowned upon. We have to push back against that stuff. Next, the Just Work shirt that I'm wearing right now says Just Work, period, across the front. Who can't get behind that? And lastly, the Sovereign t-shirt, which is probably my favorite now because sovereign means you're not controlled by another. And that's what we're all about. Strong body, free mind. Check us out, justworkco.com. Again, support the show if you want by wearing one of our shirts. Lastly, First Phorm, the only supplements I put in my body. I have used exclusively First Phorm supplements for the last 4 years, and I have nothing but good things to say about the products and the company. The highest quality standards. The company stands up for what's right in an age of corporate wokeism. First Phorm goes against the grain. Firstphorm.com/hurt will get you free shipping on any products you want shipped to you in the continental U.S. Again, only supplements I use. I can't say enough good things about them. If you have any questions about supplements, which ones to get, which ones suit your needs, hit me up, shoot me a message, comment below, whatever you want to do. You can find me on all the socials, and I will help you out because I absolutely love this company and what it stands for. It's when I was doing a lot of nutrition coaching, it's the only supplements I recommended to my clients because I knew we would get results. Firstphorm.com/hurt. All right, that is enough chit chat. Let's get into this episode. The reason I wanted to talk to you, to have you on the show is I don't even know how originally we ended up following one another, but we did. And I really like a lot of your messaging. So very seldom these days do I consume other people's content very much, to be quite honest, because I'm so focused on creating mine and I can get wrapped up in just scrolling. And so I try to limit my diet of other people's content. You know, there's a few folks that I follow and pay attention to their stuff. And so yours kind of roped me in, kind of captivated me. I was along for the ride pretty quickly with your stuff because I liked the messaging and where it was coming from. Very obviously coming from a real, authentic place. And that's something that's hard to find these days, to be quite honest. And so, yeah, man, that's why I wanted to talk to you. And I don't know a lot about you, just to be quite honest. I know that you that you have a company called Backbone Swag, and we'll go into that. But honestly, dude, I just find your content to be a breath of fresh air, and so that's why I wanted to have you on. I mean, there's like I said, a handful of people. You know, I'm a big fan of Sean's stuff. I've had him on the show, Sean Whalen,
Yep.
Andy Frisella, who I've worked with his company the last 4 years. There's just a few folks who keep it real, and I get value out of their content. And it's pretty easy to tell when someone's putting on a show and when someone's not. So anyway, that's a
Yeah.
long version of why I wanted to have you on, my man. If real quick, if you want to just for the listeners, do a brief introduction of yourself, and then we'll just dive right in, brother.
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, dude, Dave, thanks so much for having me on the podcast, man. It's like you said, social media, as much content as we put out, you can really get caught in the scroll. And so what I started to do was have things turned on a notification of people that I follow.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, your stuff, started to fit that bill for me, especially the more that you started really speaking up and out. I mean, obviously there's a few in the OG class of people who have been outspoken against this shit from the beginning. And I remember yours being one of them, holding up the signs and stuff like that. So it and your relationship with your daughter, it's something that captivates me too, because I have 2 kids. And
Nice.
quite frankly, we'll get into the brand, but like just letting the listeners know, like Dave and I have been following each other and consuming the content for quite a while. So this podcast, I think, has been a long time coming. So I look forward to seeing what unravels here, and I hope you guys listening get a lot out of it too. But my name is Justin. I own Backbone Swag. It's not what I originally started out doing, though. When I left my full-time job, I built this company to over 6 figures in the second 14 months. The first 12 months we did just a little over $7,000, and the next year and 2 months we did 1.1. So it was quite a journey to get here, and nothing's guaranteed and nothing's quick. So one thing that I really started to do with my journey is, as Dave knows, I share the real shit. I share the shit that I'm going through. Life ain't always easy. You got to stand up to people who try to put you down, especially, customers who think they own you. And yeah, dude, I was a photographer for most of my career. I worked in the corporate world at a publicly traded company. I've worked startups. I've worked the ranks up. And then in 2018, when I left my full-time job, I knew that I didn't want that again. And so I've worked my ass off to really build my companies that have the culture of the job that I liked, but with the atmosphere that nobody would ever want to leave.
Love it.
And
So
we just continue to build on that.
yeah, for those listening, and I know for a fact there are a lot of young men who listen who want to be entrepreneurs potentially. I think in some capacity it's been glamorized, and so I try to talk about the real side of that. I've started and sold companies, and it's fucking the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and I hate that we glamorize it to an extent, which again is another reason I like your content. But for those guys listening who do have that itch, first off, a lot of them are probably working corporate gigs, full-time jobs, which is
probably listening to this podcast either on the way to work or
yep.
from work. So I know what that's like.
Absolutely. Or if you're really delinquent, you're listening to it during work, which is what I used to do with Andy's stuff. but for those guys listening, what was the impetus for you leaving finally in 2018 and going for it? Can you describe kind of what that looked like?
Yeah. So what I like to do is I like to talk a lot about feelings, mm-hmm. because we all have them. And as men, we try to, I was taught by my mother to have emotions, and my dad, like, he never cried in front of us. He never, like, he was always hardcore, doing his own thing. Had a crazy upbringing, right? My mom was a prescription pill addict, an alcoholic for the first 17 years of my life. I started working when I was 12 years old, but I built this almost facade that I didn't talk about my feelings much. I led with my heart in everything I did, but I never talked about my feelings. And so social media came around and I started to share more of my feelings. And inevitably that connected me with a lot of like-minded people. And, you know, the feelings at first weren't this, what do you call it? Like the feelings that I have right now, as far as business and life, were not what the feelings were in the beginning. Right. And the feelings in the beginning were like, you know, my life sucks. This shit is a bitch, you know, whatever. And then I remember somebody calling me out and be like, yo, nobody cares. And that shit hit me between the eyes so bad. I was like, you're right. Nobody does care. And why the fuck should they? So in 2018, it had been a year of really pushing hard. I knew that this corporate world, I was starting to see, honestly, I was starting to see what was happening before it happened, right? The things in the political arena, you know, the cultural climate, I saw things starting to get really heated, really heavy, and really quick. And I knew that I had this itch to go do something else. I had this burning desire within me that was like, this is not it. Like, I have worked my ass off to finally get up to making over 6 figures. And as I climbed that ladder and I kept climbing that ladder, there was other levels that I was like, this ain't it. So I kept searching, this ain't it. When I finally reached the level of like, I remember sitting at my desk, I sat back like this and I was watching everyone around me. I didn't work in cubicles. We worked in like creative rooms. So right. Whiteboard walls, all sorts. It was cool. But I remember looking around like saying, I don't think I'd ever want to own this company. So why am I here? And then the owner of the company came walking down the hall. He visited regularly. He flew in from Atlanta. He's walking down the hall. And I remember thinking, he's just an average dude too. He's just a guy. He's just a male. He's just a dude. And I was like, why not me? And it was in that moment that I was like, fuck this. Like, I didn't get up and walk out right then, but I started making plans. I started making moves. I started getting myself out there. I started putting myself out there. I started being vulnerable. I started putting my work out there, saying, you know, hey, this is what I do. This is why I love to do it. Inevitably, that landed me a couple big contracts and started building some confidence. And then in 2018, I remember having a conversation with my wife, telling her, like, I need more time. I need to buy back more my time. And the only way I can do that is to leave this company. Bear in mind, she worked as a stylist at Stitch Fix. She did not make very much money. They did not pay very well. They were very demanding. And so I was pretty much, you know, the sole provider. Health insurance was through me. Like everything was through me, the benefits. So when I left, or whenever I told her I wanted to leave, it wasn't an easy conversation. It was a moment where I got to stand up, not to my wife, but with my wife, and be the man that she knew I could be. She knew was in there. And I could stand up and say, I can't tell you what the future will look like. I just need to go make it happen and show you. That's literally all I just need you to be along with that ride. If you can do that, I promise you, I won't let you down. And dude, I left that job April 2018. I just turned 30, and I went to Sean's. I posted this on social media in my stories. I went to Sean's, one of the first Lions Den Lives event that he had. It was like his first, second, or third one. I think it was his second one, is what we figured out. And I got a nugget from that live that ended up making me $150,000 in the first 6 months of my business. And then the second year we doubled, and then COVID hit, and then turned to Backbone Swag. And that's kind of when I turned the heat up a lot. But yeah, man, like that's the journey. That's how I felt. I felt like I needed more time. I was giving my time to this company, and they were paying me, and they were paying me well, but it wasn't fulfilling. It left me less of a man than whenever I remember walking in there. It left me feeling like I'm around a bunch of people that I love those dudes. I worked a lot. I worked in the trenches with them. We built some big shit. I mean, I designed some like really high-end OEM manufactured websites for cars. I mean, we did some big shit, but I was around a lot of people who were weak-minded, and that, as you know, if you're around a bunch of weak-minded men or women, it's really hard to thrive. Like I started to feel like, dude, I honestly, I started to feel like I was the smartest one in the room, and I'm not that smart. Like I
Right.
started to feel like y'all are really gonna let them walk all over you like this.
That's when you know it's time to find a new room. You
And
know.
that was it, man. That I can read a room really well. I can feel the temperature. Like I knew it was time. And the thing about me is when it's time, I don't waste time.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it is, man. It does. Just listening to you, it was crazy how many parallels I see to my own story. So first off, I think we're the same age, right? Like I'm 34.
I'm about to be 34. Yep.
Yeah. So because I was like, yeah, 2018, that's when I was 30. That's, I'm like going through, and I left my corporate gig for the same reasons. I was with this place for almost a decade, made a ton of money, all that stuff. Like it was great in that regard, but you know, I was not happy. I just wasn't happy. So I started my first company while I was working there just because it was never enough just to work for someone else. Like I've always had to do something else. And so I was like 8 to 5:30 at the company and then 6 to 2 a.m. at my business, which was in the bar industry. So like, bro, literally like I went and sought out that happiness by doing my own thing. And then it was just this realization that, dude, you can't keep killing yourself trying to do both. Why are you staying in this environment where you every day making the commute? I just dreaded it. I hated it. I would just,
And dude, you have to be in touch with that inner
you do.
voice, that inner feeling. Like if you're not in touch with that, you're fucked. You're so far fucked. And if you can't listen to like what you just said, yo, I was dreading it. Like
Yeah.
there are people who don't know they know the feeling and they feel it, but they can't like call that shit out on themselves.
Yeah. And I really like the part where you mentioned that you opened up with your wife about it. And I think that as men, that's so important because there's this sort of false idea of what masculinity is. And it's this whole like men aren't in touch with their feelings. We're tough. All that bullshit. And it's like, bro, my wife, like the moment I could be vulnerable to like truly vulnerable emotionally to my wife, like my partner in life who we just hit 16 years together. It's like,
dude, no way.
Yeah.
We've been 16 years together too.
Dude, that is crazy. That is wild. I knew I liked you. But it was like, for me, it's like, oh, this is being a real man. Like bringing her along with me. Like, what are my emotions that I'm feeling? Why am I miserable? And, of course she's like, well, fucking leave. Let's do this. And,
Shit.
It's like this huge relief where you're like, oh shit, okay, you truly do believe in me. I was afraid to tell you how I was feeling. Meanwhile, I probably should have had this conversation with you a year ago. So,
but, not to interrupt you, but something that you said there is like our stories parallel so well. You're right. Like, yeah, maybe you should have done that a year and some change ago, but that's the beauty of the time now is like that you did it. Like, cause dude, I feel so, I almost said I feel bad for guys and men who don't do this, but at the end of the day, like, yo, like, I don't know how many times I can say something a different way that would make you say, maybe I should be vulnerable with my wife and my partner.
Yeah.
Like there is no weakness in that. And as men, we think that's us taking our body armor off for the world to attack us. And it's like, no, that's taking our body armor off so they know that we're safe with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that a lot of guys can't, they don't, that does not click with them.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It took me a long time, that's for sure. I think becoming a dad was definitely a big part of it. Made me really question what the fuck am I doing with this life? I've only got a certain amount of time. Now I have this beautiful creature that we created and I got to do right by her. And like, if I show her what example am I showing her? Dad's fucking miserable working for someone else and not following his true passions. No, that's not what I'm going to show her. I'm going to show her that Dad fucking went for it and did what he wanted. And so that was what led to, selling the first company and quitting the job and doing all this stuff I'm doing now. But dude, it's I wanted to ask you because I have found myself kind of by default falling into selling clothing because of the demand from the podcast. A lot of people saying, "Oh, you should put that on a shirt," or you should put that on a shirt, this on a shirt. And so I was like, "Fuck it, I guess we need to put stuff on shirts and start selling it to people." I never saw myself being in the industry, and I've now that I love it. I love the entire process. When you started Backbone Swag, did you always want to be in a clothing company, or did you always see that for yourself, or what? Why that, I guess, is my question.
Yeah. So I guess this is a great segue to kind of dissect some chapters of the book that led me here. The short answer is no. Like I don't have a camera within arm's reach, which is really odd for me, but my entire life has been be creative with the camera, capture moments for people, share it, tell the story. Right. And so I did that in the hunting industry. Like I did that really, really well. I started filming at 13, 14, and I started editing nationally televised TV shows, nationally televised shows at 15, 16,
Dude,
right?
That's awesome.
And like I've had a lot of big success in that not a lot of people know that my name is behind. And as I started to do that in the hunting industry, I noticed that I would film TV stars, and they would tell the audience about this product because they're being sponsored by this person. But then when the cameras were off, they'd put that thing on the side and say, "I really can't stand that." And if you know, like Dave, you followed me for a little bit. Like I can't stand liars. Like I will fucking you'll be out of my life so quick. I don't even care. And I started to notice a trend with all these people. People pay them money and they lie to the audience. And then the audience would go buy this product and they'd be pissed that they bought this product and it just started the circle. So I saw a little niche. And so in the hunting industry, I created what was my business called Hunting Product Guru. And it was right around this like whole stigma of the word guru. And my whole goal was to go be the guru that bought the products, used the products, and gave a real review on the products, on everything. And that, much like your podcast, led to people saying, "Man, I would love t-shirts with your brand on it. I would love this with your brand." And so I said, man, all right. I didn't have money this is all side gig stuff, right? And I was working for, I think at the time, I was making somewhere around $60,000 a year. It wasn't very much. And so whenever I started this, I didn't have the money to to buy a shirt press. So I made my own shirt press, and out of 2x4s, piece of aluminum angle, like 12-inch piece, C-clamps, put a hinge on there and put a door spring. And so I created my own shirt press. And then I started, and then I cured those shirts in my home oven. I actually almost burned my house down by curing the shirts. That you have to cure the ink at 375 degrees, or 325. And I think I was using water-based, so maybe it was a little less. Nonetheless, it was kind of like a side gig. It was like, and then I started to fall in love with the process. I love being a designer. I love creating shirts. And so I just kept creating more shirts. And then I kept doing small releases, and I kept doing limited releases. And then before you know it, like people have all my shirts from 8 years ago, 9 years ago, like my first few shirts. And so, no, I didn't always set out to do this. But it wasn't by accident either, if that makes sense. It was all part of the plan and part of the process. And, going from my own homemade shirt press to now we have, a $14,000 manual setup with dryers and flash units and screens and inks and all that shit to now we have our first auto press. So it's gone in waves, but much like I talk about a lot is don't quit. See if you can pivot. Like my whole message is very simple with a lot of people. Just don't fucking quit. That's what started the entire Backbone Swag brand. That simple shirt is what started everything for me to this level. But it was years in the making to get to that point, to be able to pull the trigger and say, all right, I can confidently make shirts. I can figure out this process. Started with my homemade shirt press, graduated to a heat press, graduated to a bigger press, and then now we have an auto press. So it's starting to come full circle. And now we're starting to the point where we're helping other brands. So like, I know that there's a lot of brands who are starting who don't know the process, but would love to make some side cash, or would love to start a hustle so they can make a move in business.
Dude, that's so cool that you made your own press. I've never heard of anybody doing that. That's cool. Because what happens from that, and the reason I love it so much is like you get such an intimate, deep understanding of how it all works. Because eventually, so when I owned my bar business, you know, I had 1 and then 2 and then 3 locations, 100 employees. Like it got huge, but from the beginning, I was always adamant about touching every process, touching every part of the business. I wanted to know exactly how it works. I want to be able to do it all myself, because there comes a time eventually, if you scale a business up, where you're not doing that anymore, but you know how it works, and you know how to tell if someone's bullshitting you, or to, you know, there's so many good things that come out of you leading from the front, right? Getting your hands on everything, experiencing it, and it blows my mind how many people own a business where they don't understand how their product is made, or where their product comes from, or, you know, they couldn't tell you the first thing about it, which, look, I guess not to knock someone who takes that approach, but I appreciate people who take the time to learn the ins and outs. Like with this podcast, I do everything myself, all the editing, the recording. I had to learn how to build a fucking studio, what equipment to get, all of that. Like, I hate editing, and eventually I will hire a producer to edit shit, but I'll know how to do it. And I'll know if they tell me it took 6 hours to edit that, no, I could edit that in 2 hours, bro. Like, you know, so it pays to understand your business soup to nuts. And I love that you started by making a damn press, dude. That's pretty freaking awesome.
I did it because I wanted to learn it. I did it because I saw, like, I made a goal and I needed to make a shirt. I went to screen printers. I went to a place here locally, which I've farmed out some of my stuff because we've been so busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to feed small businesses business. But at the time, my brain couldn't comprehend paying, at the time, probably $10 a shirt so I could sell it for 20. It just did. I couldn't figure out, like, I was like, well, no, if I can make it for $5, that gives me an extra $5 of profit. So, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm all that smart, right? Because I'm really, truly not. I'm just willing to do what has to be done to get where I want to go. Yeah. And if that means making my own shirt press, cool. Now I've been done enough in business, much like how you've built and sold businesses. You have knowledge now built up because of the path that you chose,
right,
to be able to make educated decisions next time. So my next decision is based off of 12 years of getting kicked in the dick, right? It's like, I don't want to make that move because I've been kicked in that nut before, and I don't want that right now.
Right.
So it's not that I'm smart, I'm just passionate. And I was like, you know, maybe I didn't set out to like enjoy the process like I do now. I just do. Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I love doing releases. I love doing small batch stuff where I get to make and touch everything. I get to cut the holes and do the paint splatter. Dude, I love the process. And I think that's, whether you start from building a shirt press or, you know, building your first, you know, bar table, it comes down to, like, whether you do that or not, are you passionate about it?
Mm-hmm.
because that passion is what will lead to profits, period. Like,
and I see a lot today as far as the clothing industry goes, and I do want to correct myself because I don't mean to sound like when I said I didn't intend to get into clothing, that I'm not passionate about doing it now, because I absolutely am. It just, I happened
you
into it. Yeah. It just sort of organically came about, but I do see a lot of people today, and I don't know, man, I guess it's because I've started posting about the brand and everything. I get, and you might see this too, like Instagram feeds me constantly fucking like small little clothing brands, sponsored ads from different little clothes. And I'm like, it seems like, what's the best way to put this? You can tell when someone is doing it because they figured it was a way to make a quick buck or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it seems like there's this huge influx, and maybe I'm having the phenomenon of like when you buy a red Honda, now you see red Hondas everywhere.
Yeah,
but
Ed calls that the reticular activating system.
Yeah,
RAS.
yeah. Well, that's a real system, and maybe it's that now I'm like, God, there's so many freaking clothing brands and people trying to start clothing brands and stuff, and I don't know, man. It's so apparent and obvious to me. Like when I look at a guy like you, and I didn't even know all of this story. You know, I didn't know that you handmade a press, and it's been years, and there's shirts that you made 8 years ago that people are wearing, and all of that. But I don't have to know that, because your content and your messaging is genuine and authentic enough to where it shows through. And it's very easy to tell when someone isn't that way. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about, I hate that entrepreneurship has been glamorized so much to where people, they don't expect to have to bleed for it, and they want to make a quick buck. And you know, you see one week I'm starting a t-shirt company, the next week it's like I'm trading crypto, the next week it's like I'm fucking wholesaling real estate, the next week it's like so anyway, I guess my point is I just appreciate guys like you who are like, yeah, man, I wanted to make it happen, so I made a press and I just went for it, and I was grinding it out forever. And now, to a lot of people, a lot of these guys creating these little fly-by-night brands, they're probably like, well, shit, must be nice, man. He just blew up immediately. You know, they don't see all that other shit that happens in the background.
You know, something I think, you know, you guys who are listening, if you can take a step away from your current life and your current situation, and you get out of this, like almost like go sit in the seats of your own life movie. Is that a movie you would want to watch?
I love that.
And if not, fucking create the movie you would want to watch. Like I've been doing this my entire life because my life has revolved around a camera. Like, tell the story. Like, it's your story. Like, Dave, you have your own story, and everybody who's listening, you have your own story. And if you're not giving the world your story, then you're not giving the people what God gave you to show the world, to tell the world. So, like, dude, I think one of my best character, I almost said fault. It's not fault. It's like one of my top character traits is I take the average person, and I'm this person, and I'm in between this other person, and I'm able to show them, hey, I've done it like this. They've done it like this. Do you see any similarities? Mm-hmm. And then I start to bring the two together, right? Because that's what I did with my hunting product stuff. Is I didn't go online bashing the people that bashed people behind the camera. I never said anyone's name. To this day, there's only a handful of people that know who and the amount of people I'm even talking about, period. Really only a handful of people. Instead, I took the high road approach. Okay, cool. Well, if that's how you're going to talk, then here's how I'm going to talk. And I started to notice that a lot more people started to gravitate towards me because they could feel the authenticity. Yep. It wasn't a fucking show with me. It was like, I'm not getting paid. Like I literally went to people. I bought a $450 blow up gun case. Like it's the dudes that create the like I can't remember. The guy used to be a pilot in the Air Force, I believe. He ended up getting out, creating a gun case that is like virtually indestructible, and like no matter like an alligator can come chomp this thing and it's still going to survive. It can get dropped from a helicopter and basically your gun's going to stay at zero. I reached out to him. I was like, hey, I want to try this product out. At the time, they were having a hard time sourcing. And I was like, I want to buy one. Can you please let me know when and where I can buy one? They're like, you want us to just give you one? I was like, no, I'm paying full price. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like, keep in mind, this is a project. This is a side hustle.
Right.
Most people are not willing to put their real money on the line. And that's something I've learned, that the more I win, it's because that's the more I've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if anybody's listening to this right now, if you're struggling stepping out as an entrepreneur, or your vibe with like, you know, feeling like you need to talk to your wife, but you're having a hard time talking to your wife, I can tell you this right now, you will get nowhere staying in that comfort. You will be fucking miserable, because there's going to be people like us who are willing to go be uncomfortable for a long period of time to get where we want to go. And we're willing to stay up late, work few jobs, provide for our family, be there in the special moments, but also understand that sacrifice is going to be a part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. And look, I would say also to that point, it's okay to be an employee. Like, it's okay to not be an entrepreneur. Like, I wouldn't have ever been able to build that first company I built without employees. You know, that, like, not everybody is, honestly, to be frank, cut out to start, run, build, grow a company. And that's fine. That's okay. Just like not everybody is supposed to be a fucking like professional basketball player, or, you know, insert thing, right? Like, I notice a lot of people today, and I think it's a byproduct of this sort of sexy entrepreneur culture, you know, your Gary V's and all these guys out there who, you know, and Gary's putting out very good content and good advice, but it's inevitable that there's going to be a set of people who are like, I want that, I want to be that, but they're not truly driven to create something, right? They want to be Gary V, but they don't want to work like Gary V. I'll, you know, say it that way. Yeah. And that's okay. Like, if you're sitting there thinking, man, I need to be an entrepreneur, I need to start a company, I need to own a company, just because you feel like that's whatever is made sexy in social media or wherever you're seeing it, but you have a job and you're happy and you're making good money and you're providing for your family, like, don't do it. That's fine. Like, if you're not truly driven and compelled to do something more and to eat last, you know, and to suffer and struggle, then that's okay. Like, it's totally cool. In fact, people like Justin, people like myself, or any number of people who have started companies, like, we need good people to be the number 2, the number 3, the number 4, you know what I mean? And I like putting that out there, because I do get this sense, especially when I get like messages from young men, that they feel like if they're not starting a company and having their own thing, then they haven't really made it, quote unquote. And I don't think that's the case, man. I just think that certain people are inclined to do certain things. And so I just to add that in there.
You said something. I want everybody to listen to this, because it's like my brain. Like I said, I think differently. I act differently. I walk differently. I've understand that I'm just a different breed. And I used to be down on myself because I wasn't a popular kid, right? But you said something in there that I really vibe with, and it's how I grew up, is eating last. Mm-hmm. At 12 years old, I started eating last. At 15 years old, I started eating last. Like it's something that's been in my nature. But what you said, we all need a number 2, 3, or 4. But on the flip side, us business owners, we don't see ourselves as number 1.
No, absolutely not.
We see everybody who helps us as our number 1s, because like that's how teams are built, and that's how leaders lead. Is we don't show up and say, hey, we don't have a big dick swing contest. It's nothing like that. And for anybody who's listening to this, and you look in somebody's like social media and you're seeing all the glamorous stuff, just know that like if you go look for it, there is some non-glamorous stuff there too on everybody. It's just sometimes you got to read more between the lines than others.
Yeah.
I'm more likely going to share with you, hey, I just lost $14,000 on this deal and I'm having a hard time recovering. Oh yeah, life's not so easy, and business and entrepreneurship is not so easy. I'll say those numbers. I'll say those things. There's other people who won't. You gotta learn to read between the lines and just know at the end of the day, it's all out there.
Yeah.
The glamorous shit, the negative, like not the negative shit, but the non-glamorous stuff, right? The shit where you're like, dude, how many bad business days did you have in your bars?
More than good ones. It seemed like
you lose more than you win, but people don't.
You keep swinging.
They hear you say. A lot of people will hear you say, "Man, I've built and sold businesses," and to them, that's like, "Holy fuck, he's a multi-millionaire." And it's like, dude, I know people who've sold businesses and lost money.
Oh, absolutely.
But they can say they sold a business.
Well, and I just want to add really quick. When I said like a number 2, a number 3, I was more referring to like the order of like the next person
100%.
joined the company. So like it starts and it's just you, and then someone else comes on board and someone else.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't trying to like out. It was just like, I want people to understand how our brains like think of those numbers, because you wouldn't be where you're at without your brain thinking that way. And I wouldn't be here where I'm at with my brain thinking that way, because a lot of times people think that we're only looking out for us.
Yeah.
And that is like, we're the last people we're looking out for, bro. Right?
Dude,
am I right?
It's 100% true. And I'll give an example of that. Like I was sitting down going over numbers with one of my GMs before I sold the bar business. And, we were looking at gross revenue for that location, and it was like right around 2 million. And she was someone I was paying I think 65 grand salary to be the GM of that location. And she saw those numbers and she was like, holy shit, like you're making $2 million on just this location, and it's not your only one, and it must be nice. She's like, you only pay me 65 grand or whatever. And I'm like, look, let me tell you something. This was year 3. And I said, here's what you want me to tell you what I paid myself in year 1? $0. You want to know what I paid myself in year 2? $30,000. Year 3, $30,000. I was like, you make more than double what I pay myself. I was like, you need to understand that. And people who want to start and run a business need to understand that. I was like, I paid myself enough to fucking eat. My business was doing millions of dollars in revenue, and I was paying myself 30 grand a year because I wanted to keep growing and building. And like my bartenders made more money than I did. And when we exited, I did great, but that's because I took on the risk for years, worked 20 hours a fucking day, all of that stuff. And that's what people need to understand. And I don't say that to like, oh, look how cool I am. I only paid myself this. Like the whole like Warren Buffett kept his house from years ago and he's so admirable. It's like, no, if you want to start and run a business, you have to have that mindset, bro. You can't be like, we made $1 million in revenue this year. I'm going to pay myself 500,000. And that's not how it works. And I just want people to understand that. And if you're going to start a business, you need to be ready for that. You need to be ready to like not pay yourself for a long while.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the biggest misconceptions that I had going in business is, whenever you start to see the cost of goods, marketing, especially in apparel, holy shit, people think that we're making a killing off of $30 t-shirts. They really do. And I mean, some yes, but the the profit or the transactions where you do actually make money is probably in month 3 or 4 of a customer, because it costs so much to acquire that customer. But again, like, that's why we're willing to take on the risk. And those of you who are, thinking about it, understand that is the risk. That is the risk that you got to be willing to take.
Yeah.
And Dave took it. I took it multiple times. Dave's taken it again, because you
yeah, man, I'll never stop taking it.
And then I remember your exit. I remember your post about it. I remember thinking, fuck yeah, like, because they started to, from my understanding, didn't they start to hear the podcast or like see your social media, and then that started to become like a dividing wedge?
Well, that was actually, at least I think you're probably referring to more recently. I had a consulting gig where,
that's what it was.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Because my previous career was in recruiting science and engineer professionals for like the defense industry, pharma, all that stuff. And so I recently took on, because I'm an idiot and I like taking on more than I can, this gig with this large firm, because they had reached out to me and the numbers were ridiculous. And I was like, okay, well, and even up front, man, I was like, just so you know, I have a pretty large public presence and it's pretty political. Check me out before we even do anything. And they're like, oh no, we already have, we love your stuff. We're good. And I'm like, okay,
that's bullshit.
Yeah, dude. But what happened is, maybe they did at the time. Maybe the CEO did at the time. But enough people bitched and complained who found me later on, who worked at the company further down the ranks. And it just came to where, hey man, we gotta let you go because our objectives don't align, is the line they fed me. And that's fine, whatever. That's I don't care. No ill will. I would never publicly like call them out by name or anything like that. But it's pretty easy to find out who they are if you look at my LinkedIn, just saying that. But that's, I can't fault someone for making a business decision that they think makes sense for them, because I've been there as well. But that's what that was. And I sold the bar business actually, man, because we had my daughter. And at the time I was still working in corporate America, building the bar business. Like literally, it's no exaggeration when I say I was working 20 hours a day conservatively, sleeping 4 hours, like in the office, waking up, doing it again. Had a child. My wife's like, all right, there's these 3 big things: the job, the business, the kid. And I was doing a lot of real estate investing projects and stuff too. She's like, something's got to give. We got to figure something out. She's like, I don't see you. I don't even know who you are anymore. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it had gotten bad, man. It had gotten bad. And so serendipitously, a private equity group came along around that same time, just made an offer for the entire business, and had a partner. We were just like, yeah, fuck. He was ready to get out too. And we sold the whole thing. And dude, it was the end of 2018. And I mean, shit, the end of the next year, COVID hits. So I'm like, thank God I didn't still own that bar business, dude, man, when COVID hit. So
you said serendipitously, man. Like, yeah. Like, yeah. I'd say, I talk a lot openly about God, and like the further I've gone, like I just got back from Salt Lake City, had, Alex had me and a lot of other people out for his e-commerce flying event. It was really, really awesome. 2 weeks before that, I had my first flying event, and it went freaking epic. And as I've started to do these things that just seem like, I can't believe this is my life moment, like I start to realize that this is the life. Like this is it for me, helping people. And I'm like, I can't help but feel like the protection that God has given me over some of the shit that I should not even be sitting here in this chair with you about. Like sometimes it makes me just really stop for a moment and say, yo, like this is big stuff, man. Like you dodging the bullet with the COVID in the bar, man. Like you would, sometimes isn't it scary to think about where you would be had you have not gone out?
Oh, dude, I know a lot of people who were doing similar numbers to me who went bankrupt during COVID.
Dude, like you dodged that bullet. In my job, I literally I kept climbing and I kept climbing, right? And I wanted to go this other direction because they were going to be working on like higher end clients. And I was like, oh, I want to go work with Audi and Lexus. And that door got shut on me real quick. And then literally 2 weeks later, that entire division that I was going to be in was laid off. And I was like, damn. And that happened, like real talk, that didn't happen once. That didn't happen twice, but that happened 3 times in that one job.
Wow.
I kept trying to go this way. And then God was like, yo, you're going this way. It was the craziest thing. And I couldn't imagine being like laid off and let go. Well, we had just bought our house at this time. My wife was pregnant, and in the middle of building our house, which is what we're currently in, she lost her job. And I don't know how many guys know, but when women lose their job mid-pregnancy, they can't just go get another job.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very rare. And if you do get a job, there doesn't come with pregnancy benefits and giving birth benefits, if you know what I mean. So it was a fucking nightmare that we had to get through. But we did. It's part of the plan, part of the process.
It really is, man. And I know you chalk a lot of that up to a higher power, and I'd certainly agree. But I would also add, man, one thing that I think does separate you and a lot of people that set themselves up for those occurrences is that mentality of not stopping, of keep pushing, you don't give up. That's the only key ingredient, no matter what, when you look at people who have achieved your idea of success, whatever you want to call that. And I mean, that's why I call the company I have now Just Work, because that's literally all I've ever done is just work. Like, that's all it takes. People ask me, like, what's the secret? The secret is you just fucking work. Like, what'd you do today? What have you done today? It's already 2 p.m. What have you done? And people like you get that. You're like, I got lucky that I sold the bars, but there's so much led up to that, and you got lucky that things fell into place a certain way, but you put so much in leading up to that, and you never quit, and you kept going. Yeah. And I think that that's an important thing to highlight as well. And it's truly that simple, man, because the only way you truly lose is to fucking give up.
Yeah. That's when I got through 75 hard the first time. Listen, I weighed 243 pounds in 2016.
How tall are you?
5'11".
Okay. Yeah.
I was pretty big, like fat. Like I've got pictures. I'm a little bit more muscular now. I'm a lot more muscular now than I used to be. I mean, I used to like sit hunched over, and my arms were skinny, my belly was fat, and it just, I mean, when I got done with 75 hard, I thought to myself, like, it was the last day. And I was like, man, I'm glad I just didn't fucking quit. And that one saying in that moment is what started this entire ride, right? But I would like to start to get the audience to understand like one thing. If you have kids, or if you know somebody with kids, like, and you're an adult, like, try to look at a kid and try to set them up with everything that they possibly could ever need to be successful. And that's what I feel like the higher power does for us all. We still have to have boots on the ground, and your kid still has to put in the work to get to be a good kid, to get to be the kid that you set them. Like, I can give my son all the tools. I can give him all the tools. At my first flying event, I asked him to be one of my special guests. He showed up. I gave him a mic. He had some great things to tell the audience. I set him up, but he had to do the work to get there, right? Like, that's how my brain sees this picture. Like, we have greatness within us. We have to chisel it away every single day. And the only way you chisel it away is through the work. Like, it's there. Like, we all have, like, I heard a trainer tell me one time, I said, man, I just want a 6-pack. And he's like, well, you got a 6-pack already.
It's there.
Everyone has one.
Yep.
He's like, you just got to chisel that shit away. And like, that's how I think greatness is. Greatness is within us, but we have to chisel it. Like, people talk to me about, man, you have so much grit and you have so much passion. And I'm like, yeah, you do too. You just haven't sharpened that sword yet. Like, you all have greatness and grit and passion and purpose and all that stuff within you. It just takes you to work on that part every single day, not just one day. If you do one thing every 7 days, that means in a month's time, you only do 4 things a month. If you do one thing 7 days for a month, you'll do it 28 to 31 times. Tell me another way to look at it. You know what I'm saying? So as you guys listen to this, think about, like, you got today. You got a day, 24 hours in a day. Do one thing every 24 hours. Watch it stack up. Tell me I'm wrong. Prove me wrong.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And fitness is a great example of that. And I get asked a lot, like, how do I get as big as you, whatever, because, and I used to be even bigger than I am now. I would be like, look, you're not going to like this answer. Fucking work out 5 days a week for 18 years. That's what I did. And I just didn't stop.
Easy, right?
Yeah, easy. And I just woke up one day and I'm like, oh shit, that fucking 18 years of training.
But Dave, didn't you take a protein shake every single day? Didn't you, did you take a pill? I bet you took some pills to have that, like that.
Yeah, I did. Shout out to Phorm.
I'm being sarcastic, but, everyone. If you don't,
yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, but none of that shit works if you don't. And that's one of the reasons I really admire Phorm, to be honest, is when I was looking for a company to associate with 5 years ago, fitness was very much like, here's a hack to get this, or here's a shortcut to this, or here's, always like, how can I achieve some level of greatness with minimal effort? Phorm wasn't that. They're like, their slogan is literally, we do the work. And it's such a breath of fresh air. And it's like, you talk to somebody at Phorm, a trainer or someone, and they're going to tell you, look, I need you to fucking put in 6 months, a year of work, and we're going to get where you want to go, which is so refreshing, man. And if you're listening to this, don't get disheartened, because here's what's going to happen. You'll hear this and you'll be like, shit, gosh, that just sounds so daunting. And you never take that first step. 5 years goes by in the blink of an eye. Just imagine if you had, and you had, for 5 fucking years, you had taken step after step and worked. Dude, I started my bar business in 2014. I sold it in 2018. 4 years. 4 years is nothing, dude. It's nothing.
That's really quick too.
It's really quick. And there was definitely some luck on my side, and some things happened, but like, people, and this is a cliche quote, but it's so true. People drastically overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. It's like, if you just work and just one step after the next and keep doing it, just go to the gym the next day, and get to where it's habit. And eventually you wake up and you're like, holy shit, I'm a totally different human. How did I get here? You turn and look back and you're like, how the fuck did I get from there to here? It's like, I just did a little bit every day. And it's so true, man. And I have not talked to a successful person on this show or otherwise who didn't experience success in that manner, right? Like, whether it's, I had Seth Feroce on, grinding for years in the fitness industry, and then eventually starts Axe and Sledge and his other companies, All American Roughneck, and has success because of what he built as a personality, as a pro bodybuilder, all the work he put in. Whether it was Sean Whalen talking to him about how he built Lions Not Sheep, whether it's Brian Nabavi, who I've had on the show. I think you know Brian as well, who has Till You Collapse. Andy Frisella, like, anybody that I talk to, it's like, it was little step after little step. And what you realize when you interact with enough people like this is they are people just like you, like what you said in the beginning, man. It's like, there's nothing special about them. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about Justin. It's just like, we literally were too stubborn to fucking stop.
Yeah, man, that word stubborn came up a lot this last weekend when I was hanging out with Brian.
It's true though.
It's something that Yeah. Just be too stubborn to not throw in the towel. Cause you do that's a sure sign that you're not going to get where you want.
Yeah.
Dude, like the biggest thing, I'm not big into marathons. Like I don't go run marathons, but that's what this life is. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Make sprints small spurts, like when you can, like how long you can. But if you try to sprint, like I see so many people, they'll I'm going to go to the gym. I want to get in shape. They'll go like hardcore the first 2 or 3 days, and then they won't go for the next 10 because they're so sore.
Yep.
That's what this life is about. That's like, don't treat, like, if you got a business idea, yeah, be ruthlessly committed, be overly obsessed, but understand that no matter how hard you go, time will still have to be put in one way or another. Like you can't speed it up and you can't slow it down. So you might as well just like get used to taking every step that is visible and possible now,
Yep.
not tomorrow.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. And I think that's a good, also, that's another way for you to know whether it's for you or not. Do you enjoy that process? Like, do you truly enjoy being in the trenches every day and just working, knowing that eventually one day it will pay off, but that's not tomorrow. That's not next month. That's not next year. Maybe that's not even the next 5 years, And again, it's okay if you're not. Like, if you're not that kind of person, that's okay too, man. Like, but like what Justin said earlier, it's like, you just got to do you. You've got to be you and be honest with yourself. And that's how you're going to find also where you excel, and it's like, I don't know, man. I just wish sometimes I could just shake people and just be like, dude, you just like stop jumping around. Like just keep working at it. Like you're literally sampling all these different things and never committing to one thing. And you just have to put the time in. You have to, and you have to be okay without exponential growth for a very long time, maybe even ever, and that's fine. Like, anyway, man, I don't want to stray too far off topic though, because I did want to ask you a few more questions. I don't know how much time you have or if you have somewhere to be, or
I got maybe like 15, 20 minutes.
Okay,
something
cool.
Like that.
So with where you are today, from where you started, I mean, it looks like there's been some key moments, and some honest conversations with yourself. What do you think, because you kind of mentioned the first year it was minuscule and then things really took off. What do you attribute that to? Was it a change in mindset, or what was that?
So mindset about the brand has always been there.
Okay.
Because the brand, like even since the beginning, like I sold more in a year than most people sell in 2 or 3 years with their brands when they just start, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I had done that because I am the brand. I
Right.
live, eat, and breathe the brand, and that's something that I know you've been able to feel with yours, is because like you're like, people are buying from you because they're like, yo, he's been that dude. Like,
Yeah.
that's him right now. Like that is his mind, right? That's his mindset. And so I've always been the brand. I think the biggest difference is the mindset about the business side of it.
Okay.
Has been different. You take enough risk in life, and then you have the failures, and then you have the lessons, and you take the lessons from the failures, and then you apply it to go try another thing. For me, like it was 2000 and like just 2020, man. Like honestly, we had started ramping up. I'll try to make this story quick. I don't know that I'm the greatest storyteller, which is ironic on my podcast, but I'm really good in visual form.
It's all good, man. Sometimes I find even with myself, dude, it, like, because I feel like you're someone I could talk to forever. A lot of times I'll hit like my stride with someone in like hour 2 of a conversation. And it's just, that's just how
this is going great, dude.
Yeah, dude. It's just how human conversation is. Yeah, and it flies by. And oftentimes, I'll even have conversations with the people that I really vibe with, where we'll talk for 3 hours, and I'm like, shit, that flew by. We could have done another 3 hours, you know.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, like I'll try to make the story quick,
yeah,
but you know, like picture this: the entire country starts getting shut down. It's the end of 2019. I'm coming off the road. I literally leave for one trip, and I told my wife I was filming for a TV show, and I told her before I left, I was like, I can't do this. I'm missing my family hardcore. I mean, I was gone 3 weeks out of every 3 weeks out of every month, so I was gone 75% of the year. Some months I was only home for a day,
right.
and so it's hard to be a present father and husband, right? Like whenever you're coming home for a day and you're leaving for the next 7. So, and that was the thing. It's not like I was gone 3 weeks and home 7. No, it was like I'm gone 7, home 2, gone 6, home 1. Like it
Wow.
was really, it was crazy.
That's
So
rough.
I remember I have a picture on my phone, and it was my like signal to the universe, like this is it. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do right now, but I'm done with this shit. Like I'm over it. And literally it was like, okay, I'm gonna transition to doing weddings and do some like, you know, event stuff local. Had a couple gigs come through. I had planned on to have a month's worth of money saved up. People stopped paying me at the end of 2019 because guess what? The rest of the world starts shutting down.
Mm-hmm.
And then in February, I'm starting to hurt on cash. And I get the phone call that our contracts that we had coming up for the next year were all gone. Like everything. So 100 grand in contracts just gone. Justin's owed thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and Justin doesn't have any work. Just gone, just like that. No explanation. I literally stared at a box of shirts. Now, mind you, this isn't even after 1 year of Backbone Swag. Not even 1 year yet. I stared at a box of shirts. My wife, I'll never forget, she came to me and she was like, Justin, what are we going to do? She's left her full-time job. She's home with the kids full-time. She's mom. I said, I don't know. I got a box of shirts and I'm going to sell them. That's all I know. And I literally looked at the box of shirts and she's like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to create a giveaway. I'd done the math in the quantities of the shirts, how much I could sell them for. If I took a certain percentage and put it back, I could do a giveaway with cash. Everybody's starting to need cash. So I told her, I was like, I'm going to give away $750 out of that box. And, or I'm going to give away, remember in the beginning of COVID, people were buying weight racks like crazy. So they couldn't find weight racks. So I was going to buy one from a company and give it away. Or I was going to make my own and use it as a giveaway. So I told her, I was like, I'm going to give away $750 cash or a weight bench. And she goes, she came in close and she goes, Justin, you know, we don't have a single bank account with $750 in it, right? And I said, yeah, I know. It's all in the box. I'm going to get it. And dude, that my mindset, like when your back's against the wall and you're somebody who's not willing to lose, like you won't fucking take no for an answer. You will make shit happen. Like you will turn into the supernatural human being that once you have that feeling, you chase that shit for a long time. And that was it, man. I sold like $11,000 or $14,000 worth of stuff in 6 or 7 days. And the rest is history, man. So nothing like that's the moment things changed was my back was so far against the wall that I could not fall this time. Yeah. It was like, no, fuck you. I'm going to go figure this out. Like, I won't let somebody else owe me thousands of dollars ever again. Like,
so I'm just curious about how you did that, right? Like, so was it just a huge, it was the giveaway, I guess, was the main thing. That was what drove all the sales. Wow.
That drove all the sales. And keep in mind, I did that only on my personal Facebook page. And I'm pretty sure there's something in Facebook and social media land that's like, that's illegal. I'm pretty sure. And the way we did the giveaway, there was nothing like oh man, lawyers look this shit over and stuff. No, it wasn't that at all, man. Like I literally was like, if you bought something from the store, didn't matter what, you had one entry, period. Like,
wow.
I couldn't find another way to make it even. So I just did that. Like every purchase, get you an entry. And we did that once, and we did that a second time. And then we started hitting like, $15,000 a month, $18,000 a month. And I was like, man, I told my wife, I was like, I kind of want to like send this to the world. Like I want to try to get like, I want to advertise. I want to get on Facebook. And she was like, no, Justin. She was like, we need this money. And I was like, no, we need more people. Like I'm tapping out of my audience. Like I'm smart enough to know I only have so many friends and I can only ask them to share this stuff so many times. And one out of every 50 of their friends may get drawn into us. I was like, no, we need to have more visibility. So turned on social media advertising, and it wasn't easy at first. I think we spent $100 something, didn't make a single sale, barely had any traffic, just trying to figure shit out on our own. And then we finally had a day that something clicked. We spent, because how it worked was we tried spending $25, didn't make a sale. And I was like, well, we need to spend more. Let's spend $50. We didn't have one. I remember we finally had our first sale from an ad, and I was like, oh, holy shit. A random person likes our stuff enough to buy it. This is awesome. And so I chased that feeling, right? That feeling. I talk about feelings a lot because like I'm very connected with my soul. I know the feeling. I know the itch. I know the adrenaline. I know the dopamine hit. Like I know what that shit feels like. And I wanted that again. So Father's Day, 2020, that's whenever we kind of, we had woken up to a few sales, and I was like, oh man, this might be good. And then literally a couple more sales, and then by like 10 a.m. we had made our money back on ads. And I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna go up in ads. And she's like, what are you thinking, like $300? And I was like, yeah. I came back here in the computer, I entered $600. Keep in mind, we hadn't sold $600 worth of stuff that day.
Right.
And dude, we literally drove to my brother's house to go have a pool party at his house. And on the way there, my phone was just dinging. It was like, change. And that was the first day we did $3,000.
Wow.
And
so, I mean, were you really specific with your targeting? And I mean, what?
Yeah, we're as specific as we could be. We're a brand new brand. Like to my, trying to target people who are like me, but also try to get different markets, right?
Yeah.
Like I literally don't own an Under Armour piece. I don't. But I noticed that a lot of people who bought from us had Under Armour. All right, cool. Let's target Under Armour. So I'm very, me and Brian were talking this weekend whenever we were spending time together. He said, man, you're smart and you're very quick to observe. Like I've noticed that about you. I'm like, yeah, like I can't lose in this life.
Right. It's the only one. I mean,
like I gotta give it my all, and I've got to be, I'm just a little over 2 years sober now from everything in life. Congrats, so like dude. My brain is, it's clicking on all cylinders, and I love this feeling. I love being very in tune with my body, and part of that is understanding how people operate, the things that they buy, why they're buying it, when they're buying it. And what made them buy it? Yeah,
dude,
I'm very good at seeing all that stuff.
That's where I am now with my stuff, is that we've sold a shit ton to listeners of the show and people who follow me. I haven't spent anything on advertising. I did a pre-sale. I was blown away by how many people bought shirts, and now I'm like, okay, what do I do? How do I get someone who is not a listener of the show or anything like that to actually be interested in this brand? And so I've been going through that process of researching who gives a shit about my messaging, who are my average. And I've learned a lot, dude. Like one thing I didn't realize, I looked at the demographics of sales, way more females buying my stuff, which I wasn't expecting, and a lot of it is like they're buying for their husbands, that kind of thing. But I didn't expect that, So
we have the same thing too, right? Like we have actually, we're split a little bit differently. We have, 3/4 of our audience is male purchasers, but we have like this last Q4, we had a lot of women purchasers.
Yeah.
And like, so that got skewed a little bit differently. So we have a lot of women's stuff, and we had a lot of top sellers in women's, but I noticed that they were buying for them, they're buying for their spouse, and they're buying for their kid.
Yeah.
And like,
yep. Exactly.
Just, you know, if you're trying to get into more demographics for your audience or anybody listening, is like, take a second to think about, like, if you were to be if you had a brick and mortar store, what kind of person would want to walk into your brick and mortar store? And then retrace backwards to that person. What car did they drive?
Right.
Honestly, what tier of gas did they put in their car? Did they put just regular unleaded? Did they put diesel? You know, like, that shit makes a difference, right? Like, so,
yeah.
You know, is this person a diesel, you know, Ford truck driver, or is this, you know, a hybrid electric?
You know, I think I'm a little more of the former, probably. My audience.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
But, you know, it doesn't matter who's listening to this, whatever brand you have, those are the things that we think about. Like, like, what kind of person is going to be buying my gear? And not only that, what type of person do I want wearing my gear?
Yeah. Well, honestly, man, even the little bit about the observation you made regarding Under Armour, like, that's super valuable for people. Like, I hadn't even thought of that. Like, what other brands might people be wearing who are consumers of my stuff? And I can guarantee you, I can put together a nice list of, you know, what do guys like me and you, honestly, that's my core demographic. What do we associate ourselves with? You know,
I'll shop at Walmart. I'll shop at Kroger. I'll shop in multiple places, right? Think about somebody who has, like, if they're trying to advertise Rolex watches, they're probably not trying to target somebody who just walked into a Walmart.
Right.
Like, the odds of somebody buying a $30,000 or $80,000 or $90,000 watch walking to a Walmart is probably slim to none. So you have to think about where your audience buys. Not necessarily like how often, but where. Right. Because that will tell you a lot about your audience. And, you know, I know that's, like, you and I, like, no matter how successful we become in business, I'm not ever going to forget where I came from or where I started. So, like, no, I will travel, and I won't mind going into a Walmart. I may not like it. I may not prefer it, but if that's where I got to go, that's where I got to go. I will never be, you know, too uppity up to go do that shit. That's just not me.
Yeah, dude. It's funny how people will kind of get that air about themselves and be like, oh, I don't do that anymore. I'm like, I do. I don't give a shit, you know? I know you're a busy guy.
I think about the audience.
Yeah. And I've taken from this conversation, so I'm grateful. I've been a little selfish with some of my questions, so I appreciate it. I could talk to you forever, man. I know you're a busy guy. We got to do this again. I'd love to have you on.
I would love to.
Again, but in parting, anytime I have someone on as a guest for the first time, I always ask them to close with this. If you could give one piece of advice to young people today, considering everything going on in the world, the state of things now, what would that one piece of advice be? And I'm talking young, 18 to 25-year-old type folks.
Yeah, it would be this, because it'd be what I would tell myself. It's going to be a lot harder than you think, but you were built for this. Like, that's what I would tell myself. Like, it's going to be a lot harder than you think, but that's okay, because you're built for it.
I love it. It's so true. It's perfect, man. Look, dude, I'm gonna let you get to your busy day. Where can folks find you, and social media, website, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so if you just go Instagram, just search Justin Wegner, JustinWegner, or Backbone Swag. There's a lot of pictures of me on there, because that's I don't mind being the person of interest, or just we move so quick. I'm just the guy that's like, let's just fucking put this on, take a picture. We tag myself in there, backboneswag.com. All the social medias with Backbone Swag, and just Justin Wegner, JustinWegner. I'm there on all socials. I'm visible. I'm the same guy on this podcast as I am in the DM. So yeah, I'm down.
I can attest to that. Well, look, man, we'll do it again soon. I appreciate it, brother. Everybody listening and watching, until next time, keep your minds free.